All right, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Electric Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, the Electric One. And today we have a podcast that's I'm very pleased to be here with these two gentlemen, but it's not the best reason why the three of us are in the Zoom call together. But we'll get more into that in a second. But I'd like to welcome league members Chris Skalski and Chris Haines. How you guys doing?
Good, Eric. How you doing?
Pretty good. I was doing all right until I saw that Haines has a better hat than me right now. So now, he's taking my attention off my Santa hat, but yeah. Thanks guys. Thanks for coming on. This is your guys' second time on. Chris Haines, it's been a while. So you were the first ever guest on my podcast, and that is because you were in the championship game with me last year. And then Chris Skalski, I found out when I interviewed you that you are at least a two-time champ, correct? Yes. So right now actually, Chris Haines, have you ever won it?
Officially, no.
But you split. Did you do the split thing?
But I had this. I was the one who split with Hicks.
Oh, with Hicks. But who won the actual game though? If you guys would, Hicks won. Okay. So we for sure have 3 championships in this room, and we have Chris Haines, who's been to the finals multiple times now. Then that's what that means. So yeah, so we have a lot. So there's a lot of winning in this room. But unfortunately, the reason the 3 of us are together is we did not make the playoffs for the fantasy football season. The other member who did not make the playoffs is Chris McKellar. So I could have had 3 Chris's in this room, but the reason why I didn't bring him in is he was on the pod last week, and that's just what I decided to do this week. So I decided to have us 3 in here just to talk about what we thought about the fantasy football season. Before we get into that, we have to talk about who actually is in the finals. I mean, if you do process of elimination, you can guess the 6 members that are in it. But I'm going to bring it up here. So the final standings: first place is Tom. Second place is Al. Third place is Larry. Congrats to Larry. First year ever playing fantasy football, and he is a 3 seed. Then we have Mr. Fancy, Steve Hicks, and fourth, Kenny, man. Wow. What a second half splurge by his team. He is the 5 seed. And then we have Doug Hansen as a 6 seed. I was talking to Doug on Sunday. And once I realized that he was in the playoffs, it was a lock, because so many stuff needed to happen in different ways. But if Haines, you would have won, you would have took that last spot. Skalski, you had a chance still that last week, right? Yeah.
Somewhere, not much.
Yeah. So I texted Doug. I said, Doug, congrats on making the playoffs. And he was like, what? I didn't think I had a chance. And I was like, yeah, you're in. He goes, that's my first time. I think that's what he told me. I think this is his first time ever making the playoffs.
Congrats, Dougie.
Yeah, so congrats to Doug. So let's go around, and we'll start with you, Chris Haines. Since you were in the championship last year, you finished 6-8. Your team started off hot, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what went wrong with your team is you're just busy, man. You're just a busy guy, and you're not making those pickups that some people are making. You're you started Kyler Murray, he didn't even play that day. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Well, no, you're right. There's that aspect. Forgetting to check my lineup before the games actually start. There is some of that going on. But then literally half the team I drafted got injured. I mean, I have been plagued by injury after injury after injury.
That's fantasy football in a nutshell, but you just got hit hard this year. Yes. You got hit harder than most.
Indeed. I was stunned at just how many. It seemed like every time I looked at my roster, questionable, doubtful, IR, great. Now what?
Yeah, like just looking at your team right now, I mean, obviously K9 was a huge pick for you, and I was trying to get him. You remember in the office, I was like, "Hey, do you want to make a trade?" And that was before I thought that was before he even like got the nod. Like before, I think that was before Penny even got hurt. And I was like, "What do you want for Walker?" You're like, "What are you proposing?" And I just never followed up on it. And then the next week he was. I mean, he's gonna be a first round pick next year.
Quickly to the line of scrimmage, 3rd down and 3. Walker. Kenny's Walker. Walking him down. 58 yards. Touchdown, Sparty.
I mean, in fantasy football. Yeah, you Debo, man. I mean, so Debo was your first pick or second pick?
He was my second pick.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, obviously he was a great player, but he was unhealthy. Was it like pretty much all season? I'm looking. Yeah. He only missed one game, but like,
but he didn't really, even the games he did play, he really wasn't playing that much. And
it hurt you more because he was more out there as like a decoy and just to do like the end arounds and all that. So yeah, man. I mean, Kamara, what was his deal this year? Did he do? Let me look at his log real quick.
Well, he was all right, but he got injured.
He's very inconsistent. You had from weeks 5 to 8, he was probably averaging 25 to 30 points a game, and then the next 5 games he's averaging 8 points a game tops. No, actually, yeah. So he averaged 14 points a game throughout the whole season. That's not what you want for a first round pick.
No, no, not at all.
And then James Conner, that guy's made of glass. So, but he's been coming on late. Like when James Conner is healthy, he's a stud back. But like, and it's NFL, so running backs and being healthy. Yeah, but you got anything else you want to say about your team before we move on?
Yeah, I might as well change the name back to On the Bench.
On the bench. I mean, yeah. I mean, you and I, man, the two guys there in the championship game, and we don't even get a chance to repeat in the championship.
Right.
So then, I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's crazy.
That's fantasy football in a nutshell. But then we move on to Team Skalski. What is your summary of your season, Chris?
I think every week that I went up against somebody, there was always like a running back or a wide receiver that had like their career week. So it was like, I think points against, I had like 170 more than the next lowest, or highest, you should say. Yeah. So that was interesting.
Doug brought that up on last week's pod. If you saw, he said, he goes, Chris Skalski has the most points against this year. I usually have that spot.
Yeah, it's never fun, but what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about it. And then injuries, like Chris was saying, play a huge part. I was looking at my lineup before this and like going through the players, and you're like, okay, every single person that I drafted except for Kelsey, I think's been hurt at least one game. So you're losing them for 2 games essentially, with the bye week. So
I mean, Swift was your first round pick, right?
Yeah, I think Swift or Kelsey. So I mean, I was the number 10, so at 10 and 1.
Yeah,
so
you're back to back.
Exactly.
Like you're just wonder if Swift's healthy all season, man. It's like he's a stud. Like he really is. Like he has so much talent. Obviously, he has a lot of talent in the NFL, but like if that guy, man, and I think Campbell is using him well, and Ben Johnson, they're using him so well now, is like he's not even like a running back. He's literally just your hybrid. Like he's your hybrid receiver running back. And I know why they're doing that is because when he gets into open space, he's literally untackable. Like, like he's going to make you miss what I really like about him that a lot of people don't like about running backs is he knows he's injury prone. So he gets out of bounds now. He's not trying to fucking hurdle a guy. He's not putting his shoulder down like Jamal Williams. And I like that because I like Swift being that role because he's going to keep him healthy. And he's just, like I said, he's so good in open field. And then you have a guy like Jamal Williams, which Mr. Haines knows very well from watching him for 3-4 years in Green Bay. I using him well, but like for fantasy purposes for you, it's like, how many carries is this guy going to get this week? Is like, how is this? Did he get turf toe and warmups? It's
tough. Yeah. It's a tough.
And then you had Prescott.
Yeah, Prescott was hurt, but I had Lamar Jackson, who had like a good, first couple
Really
weeks.
good year.
I think I started off pretty good in the beginning of the season. And then Lamar got hurt or just faded basically. But
yeah, he was an MVP candidate the first couple weeks.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And then he fell apart.
I thought he was playing for that contract. I thought he was going to have a really good year. But
that's the thing with the Ravens, man. I hate drafting Ravens on off because their offense, like Lamar Jackson is their offense. Who are they going to throw to? Like he had Mark Andrews. So then when Mark Andrews went down, I picked up like his backup, and it was like he had one target, and it's like, what is their game plan there? But they're still winning games somehow, and it's like they're winning against the Broncos 9-10. Yeah, it's
a baseball game score.
Yes. But it's cool to look at your team, Skalski, because when we were on the podcast, you needed a running back. I told you to pick up, Pacheco. And looking from when I told you to pick him up, he went 10, 14, 15, 12. So that's not for a free agent pickup. I mean,
for running back too. I mean, plug and play. I needed someone desperately, so he helped.
Yeah, but I mean, just like you said, injuries and having the most points against is not going to get you into a fantasy football playoffs in most leagues because, even though some of us take fantasy football a lot more serious or do a lot more research or blah, 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 it still comes down to that coin flip at the end of the day. I mean, Kenny getting in is
that's
wild.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it's wild, and it's a feel-good story. So let's get into the first round matchups. So we have, I like these two first round matchups because Hicks and Kenny kind of got like a little mini rivalry that I pretty much started it, but the whole Ohio State Michigan thing really comes into play with them. And Steve's looking for some revenge, more ways than one going into this game. So if we bring up the box score here, if the game went off today, Kenny's favored to win by 10 points, 122-112. Looking at Kenny's team, Derrick Henry is his star. Josh Jacobs, man. So fun story about Josh Jacobs. I think it was week 5 or 6. He wanted to give me Josh Jacobs and someone else for was it Zeke? Or it might have been Jonathan Taylor, but I was just like, no, like absolutely not. Josh Jacobs is garbage. Like he wasn't even supposed to be the starting running back and with the Raiders this year. Now he's just what is he? He's number 2. He's number 2 fantasy running back for points. So if I would have made that trade, God, I really wish I would have got rid of Zeke. But yeah, so Kenny's pretty much, he's very heavy with running backs. He's got Devontae Adams too.
Keenan Allen's finally starting to pop off.
Yes, he's got Keenan Allen. So little facts that he told me. He picked up Jared Goff this week. I think he's going to start Goff over Tua. What would you guys do? You have Tua playing Buffalo at Buffalo, and Tua just came off 2 horrendous games, or for his standards this year. And then you had Goff going against the Jets in New York. Who would you start at quarterback if you're Kenny this week? Let's go Haines first.
I was going to say, keep in mind the forecast for Buffalo. They're predicting up to 7 inches of snow during the game.
7 inches during the game.
So I would kind of lean towards going with Goff.
Goff. What about you, Skalski?
I was going to say the same exact thing. Exactly. I know that they're supposed to get some snow up there, so I didn't realize it was going to be 7 inches of snow during the game. That's insane.
Yeah, they're calling for an insane snowstorm. It should be fun.
It's missing us somehow, but
Is it going to snow? Is it going to snow in New York then?
that's what I was curious of as
Well, at
well.
Buffalo it will, just because of a lake effect in addition to the weather front.
Oh,
But,
and there's a Saturday night game, it looks like. The Miami Buffalo.
They
game.
play in New Jersey, right?
yeah,
Jersey weather Sunday. Just no snow. 39 for a high.
Golf.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going Goff, but at the same time, you got to look at what have you done for me lately? Jared Goff is, if you listen to any sports radio or watch ESPN, they're talking for him to be comeback player of the year now. And they're saying that the Lions should not be drafting a quarterback anymore. And they're saying Goff's your guy for 2023, no matter what happens. So it's, I mean, I would go Goff. I don't know how you don't. I don't know how you can bet against the Lions right now. I know that's really hard for me to say, and that's probably the first time I've ever said that in my life. I don't see how you bet against Goff right now. And I'm not really invested in Mike White leading the way in New York still, and yeah, so
Going to play.
yeah, that's for sure. Is he going to play? Here's the thing: I kind of want him to play. I mean, Zach Wilson isn't going to be. Is it going to? I don't know. It's like, would you rather have Mike White play with injured ribs? He takes one hit, he's done. Or do you want a Zach Wilson come in who has nothing to lose anymore? He already thinks he's not the guy in New York anymore. So, and now he's going to be padded. He's going to be in pads. He's backing up. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you just take your pick. Who would you rather go against, Zach Wilson or Mike White?
I'd probably rather go against Zach Wilson. But, I mean, Mike White probably gives the Jets a better chance, in my opinion, to win.
Mike White's also throwing the ball 50 sometimes a game, though. Like Zach Wilson's only throwing it 20 sometimes because they're relying on the run so much more. With Mike White, they're kind of like abandoning the run, And when it was in Buffalo and it was cold last week, and they still didn't really depend on the run. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, Kenny, if you're listening, we're going Jared Goff for you, buddy. And then when you look at the flip side of things, I had this talk last week. He's got the Cousins Jefferson connection. Hicks does. And they're playing Indy, and they're playing in Minnesota indoors. Very scary if you're Kenny, because Justin Jefferson, I think, is the best player in the NFL. Or the most dangerous player, the player that can put up the most points the quickest. That's not a quarterback. Who would you guys say is the best receiver in the league right now?
I'm the wrong guy to ask.
I would say
you watch football still, though.
I do, but not enough.
Yeah. All right, Skalski. Who do you think is the best receiver in the league?
Tyreek Hill, when he's healthy, he's up there. I think Jamar Chase, when he's healthy, he's up there. I feel like the league's in a good place with the amount of electric wide receivers. And it's almost taking over the running back. So
yeah.
I mean, Jefferson's up there too.
Those are you have Cooper Kupp,
Cooper Kupp, yeah, when he's healthy, you can't forget about him. Yeah, exactly.
And Cooper Kupp proved that it doesn't really matter who's throwing the ball to him. This year Rams were awful, but when Stafford was even playing, Stafford was awful, but Kupp still had great numbers. So it's like he was relying on Cooper Kupp, which we saw that a lot in Detroit with Calvin Johnson, but two different players. But yeah, I would say Kupp, Jefferson. What about AJ Brown though?
There's a lot of good receivers in the league.
Haines, if you had to pick one, who are you picking? I don't care if you didn't watch as much as you normally do. Give me a name.
I would have picked Kupp initially. Absolutely. Yeah. Just because exactly what you said. It doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. He's still getting his numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's got Jefferson, he's got Christian Kirk, and he's got DeAndre Hopkins going. Three solid receivers. Didn't you draft Hopkins, Haines?
I did, but I had to. So when the injury started on my team, he was still not playing, and so therefore
Yeah.
I had to figure out something. I had too many people on IR already to hold on to him any longer, and I had to make a move somewhere to get somebody. He was still like 3 weeks away from playing at the time when I made that when I dropped him.
Yeah, he's averaging 19 points
Yeah.
a game.
Yeah. Well, Lemoyne even said on draft day, I'm impressed with your level of patience in that one. I'm like, well, let's see how this plays out. And it didn't play out well because I couldn't wait any longer to have somebody in my lineup that could actually potentially be in my lineup.
My buddy in my other league, Easy, he drafted. No, he didn't draft him, but he picked him up right after the draft. He picked up OBJ, and he's still on his roster. And he's doing it because it's a keeper league. So he's hoping, like, since he wasn't drafted, that he would be the 16th round pick for him next year. So he's hoping that everything works out with OBJ. But the Hopkins thing, I understand. We take away a roster spot and we added an IR spot. That's what we did.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that definitely hurts. And I know people were telling me this year, like, man, we're picking from scraps in free agency, but it's like, that's what I like about fantasy football. It's like, there's not going to be a guy that's going to be putting up 15 points in free agency pool, like, and that would mean if that is the case, that happens that means teams' rosters aren't balanced. I think the teams this year were very balanced. But back to Kenny and Steve. So they played in week 4. Steve blew out Kenny. That was when Kenny's team was bad. Kenny lost 77-115. Then week 13, Kenny won 135-104. Who wins this matchup? Let's go with Haines.
Well, it depends on who actually is keeping an eye on their roster. We do see a questionable there over on Kenny's side. So I would advise him to keep an eye on that and make sure he's got somebody ready to go. Which
I'm guessing it'll be Singletary.
Yep, it looks like it would be.
Or he can put Miles Sanders into his running back spot and then throw Olave or Jared Judy. He tore it up last week in his flex. So he's got options there. So got to pick a winner. Who you got?
Got to pick a winner. Oh, I know Fancy has a way of pulling things out. So and just that revenge factor. I'm going Team Fancy this time.
All right, one for Steve. What about you, Skalski?
I think I'm going to go with Kenny's team. He beat me up pretty good last week, and like you said, he's been rolling. So Steve's teams look good too, but
this is gonna be fun to watch, and this is one of the only perks of not making the playoffs is I get to relax and just like actually watch these matchups. Because I'll be honest, as commissioner, I don't really look at any other matchups except for mine until like Sunday night. I'll be like, oh, I already lost. Let's see what everyone else is doing. So instead this week, I'm just going to care about the Lions winning, and then I'll keep track of this. I'm going Kenny. Another thing, I don't know how you can bet against him right now. He's on is it a 5-game winning streak? Something like that. Let me confirm that he is on a 4-game winning streak. And he has the second most points scored in the league now. Wow. He passed Al on that. So he's behind Tom by 25 points. Yeah. I'm going Kenny. It's gonna be a high scoring matchup. I would say 135-124. My prediction for there. Moving on to the next matchup, we have the previously mentioned Larry Thomas and the LT Warriors going against Doug Hansen and the Waterford Rebels. We're going to break this matchup down here. Currently, it is favored in Larry's favor by 24 points, 120 to 96. Doug, I'm going to text him, but he has a guy that's for sure not playing this week in his starting lineup. I'm going to make sure that's changed because let's ask you guys this. Would you guys feel a little, I guess not feel bad, but like a little like I'd rather beat a team that actually started guys that played, you know, like, or do you just like, no, that's your own fault?
Oh, in some ways it's your own fault, but on the other hand, and maybe it's just the robotics thing, but I would rather know that I beat a good team or a team that was at their best than a team that was broke down and missed something, and especially something like this.
What about you, Skalski?
Yeah, funny you say this. Actually, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. Dougie and I were golfing, and we were in two different groups. And it was Sunday around 1:00, and I was looking at our matchup, me versus him, and I was like, "Hey, man, your quarterback's gonna be, not playing today." So I texted him before 1:00, before the game started. I don't know if he didn't get the text or not, but he ended up still beating me without, getting points from the quarterback. So either way, like Chris said, I would want to play him at their best.
Yeah. For me, it's like, if I'm like the huge underdog, I wouldn't say anything. I'll be honest, because like, I'm like, I have a long shot here. Like I need all the help I can get. But yeah, like in this situation, if Doug made the playoffs and didn't change his roster, I'd be very upset with him. So it looks like he's going to be putting in Michael Carter, the running back for the Jets against the Lions. So that's going to put his projection up to 106. So it's going to be 14-point underdog. You have Geno Smith going against San Francisco on Thursday Night Football. I'm rooting for the 49ers very hard. I'm guessing Skalski is too. What about you, Haines? You're a Packers fan. Do you want the Lions to make the playoffs?
So, I'm a Packers fan, yes, but that's hard to. Of course, I want the Lions to make the playoff, because the Lions are like my family team.
Yeah,
pretty much everyone in my family is a Lions fan.
That's cool. That's cool because
I want to see them do well. I've grown up watching the Lions. I don't want to see them suck.
Yeah, neither do we. Neither do we. Yeah, so he's got Geno going against the 49ers, really good defense. 49ers are hot. He's got Saquon playing in a huge game against Washington. St. Brown against Doug's got players playing in meaningful games this week, which could be a huge difference. It could be the opposite way, and they could be tense and pressure and feel the pressure and not perform. But like St. Brown, I think St. Brown's going to get over 16 points. But like I said, I'm a little biased. And then when you look at Larry's team, who's been come on hot the second half, just like Kenny's team, he's got Mahomes, he's got Dalvin Cook, he's got Tyreek Hill, he's got George Kittle, he's got Metcalf, so he's got like big names. So this is gonna be a hard game for Doug to win. But let's start with you, Skalski. What is the score going to be in this game? And just so you know, they played in week 8. And Larry won, but it was 145 to 123. So Doug put up points that week. If Doug puts up 123, does he win this week? Let's go with you, Skalski.
I don't know. Looking at this, it's going to be a good matchup. Like you said, Dougie, his players have a lot to play for. But looking at like the matchups, there's a lot of favorable matchups for Larry's team. I think Larry pulls this one out. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Larry on this one.
What's the score?
130 to 122. So it's gonna be a close one. I think there's gonna be some scoring in some of those other games,
Cool. All right. What about you, Haines?
Yeah. So I really want to see Dougie pull it out. just because he's put in his dues. It's time. It's time to move on. But gosh, from a time in the season when Larry probably regretted joining to now being the third seed in our playoffs, making some great moves and everything. Yeah, he's making me regret that we let him join. And yeah, so I'm thinking he's going to come out on top this week. Probably, yeah, right around like the 135 to 120. As long as Doug makes his move and fixes that roster spot.
I had Dave on last week, and Dave met Larry twice working trade shows, and I told Dave, I was like, yeah, Larry, first year playing fantasy football, he's already clinched a playoff spot. He goes, I can see that. Like, we're like, obviously the guy's gonna make the fantasy football playoffs. All the guy does is watch sports. So it's true. I mean, when I first asked him, I played him week 1, and I think I said to McKella, I go, I hate it, but like Larry's week 1 is he's gonna start with a loss. Like, like he's going against me. Like, that's how confident I was in my team. I thought I had a great team. I mean, and he beat me. So the joke was on me. Doug, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm going Larry. Larry's team's hot. I can see Larry possibly winning it all. I'm going 128, 109. So yeah, so then Dougie comes up a little bit short, but that will bring us to predictions for the rest of the playoffs. So I just want to know who's going to be in the championship and who's going to win. Let's go with Haines first.
Hang on, I got to get back to the playoff bracket.
So it's either going to be Tom, Kenny, or Larry facing off against Doug, Larry, or Al, and then you have Steve, Kenny, Tom on the other side of the bracket.
Okay, so I think Tom's making it in. And the way Larry's been working it, Larry, I would not be surprised to see it be Tom and Larry.
And who wins?
Oh, that's a real tough one. Gosh. I don't know. To me, that's a coin flip right now.
You got to pick.
I got to pick. Well, you know what? Beginner's luck pulls it out and Larry wins.
That would be impressive. All right, Larry, that's one for you. All right, Skalski, who you got in the championship and who wins?
I honestly had the same exact thoughts as Chris, but to change it up, I think LT is going to go. I think he's going to win. Who's on Tom's side again?
Kenny and Steve.
Fancy. Yep.
I think it's going to be Kenny and LT, and I think LT is going to win it all. I just feel like looking at his lineup, I feel like some of those teams still have more to play for than looking like at Tom's with Jalen Hurts. They're going to clinch probably soon, or they did clinch. If they get a first round bye, what's the point of playing them? But we'll see.
I wanted to go against Tom, but I'm going to go Larry. He's got Hurts, McCaffrey, CD Lamb, Devontae Smith, Aaron Jones on his bench, projected 15 points too. It's either Tom or Kenny. Man.
Goddard's coming back this week, I think, too, for Philly.
Yeah. Going Tom versus Larry. Tom wins. Yeah. It's hard because Kenny's team, man. But like I said, Fancy can knock off Kenny this week, and then I'm screwed. With my prediction. Yeah, I'm going Tom, Larry in a shootout championship.
Oh yeah.
Tom gets his W. Tom's never won. He's lost some heartbreakers in the championship in the past. All right, so I picked Tom. Haines went Larry. And did you go Larry too, Skalski?
Yep, LT. Yep.
Wow, 2 for Larry's gonna love hearing this when he watches this. All right, so 2 for Larry, 1 for Tom. That's awesome. I hope that happens because as the podcast host, I would love to have Tom and Larry back on together because that's always entertaining. All right, cool. And we're gonna wrap up this podcast with something I did in the last episode. I already made my prediction, so this is mostly towards you guys. So you guys can talk this out, do whatever you want. I need to know who's going to play in the NFC Championship game. I need to know who's going to play in the AFC Championship game. And I need to know who's going to play in the Super Bowl and who's going to win the Super Bowl. Who wants to start?
I can go first.
Go ahead.
NFC, I think it's going to be Philly. I think it's their year this year. Just, if they stay healthy, keep on going. If Hurts doesn't get hurt, feel like they're going to be the NFC champs. And I really like Buffalo on the other side for the AFC.
Who the Eagles going to beat?
Hopefully the Lions, but no, I think they're probably going to beat San Francisco.
All right, so we got Philly, San Fran, and then Buffalo,
KC, I believe, on the other side. I like Buffalo. I'd like to see Josh Allen win one. Stephon Diggs.
Buffalo, Philly, Super Bowl, and who takes the crown?
Buffalo.
All right. I think Doug picked Buffalo too.
Good man.
All
right, what do you got, Haines?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to probably be Philly. I think San Fran is the hot team right now, obviously. I wouldn't count Minnesota out yet. We'll see. But Philly definitely is gonna beat someone, either Minnesota or San Fran.
We're not doing this some team, man. Come on. You tried this twice already on this podcast.
All right, fine.
Don't hurt anyone's feelings. It's fine.
I'll go with Viking.
Wow, and I got made fun of for that. Sweet. All right, who you got in the AFC?
And the AFC, yeah, we're definitely looking at the Bills. Probably KC. Yeah, I'm thinking Bills over KC. And then I totally agree with Chris. The Bills. The Bills.
You guys both have Buffalo versus Philly in Super Bowl, and Buffalo wins.
Yep.
I picked. You guys know. I picked Philly, Minnesota, and then I picked Buffalo, KC, and then I picked Minnesota, Buffalo, and then Vikings win it all. And after watching last week, it's like, oh no. But that's hey. Here's the thing, though. It's like if I want to bet with my heart, I'm going to pick Lions versus Vikings in the NFC Championship game, and then the Lions would win. Like that'd be like, dude, I would just be like, here's the thing. It's like people like think I'm such a big Minnesota Vikings fan. I have 2 ties to Minnesota. I have Kirk Cousins going to Michigan State. He's my favorite. Him and Drew Stanton are my 2 favorite players of all time. Like I watched Drew Stanton and Farmington Hills. Harrison, when I was a kid, and watching him, and then he played for the Lions too. He went to Michigan State and he played for the Lions, and he won us the first road game in how many years when we beat Washington. So I was loving it. And then Kirk Cousins, man, I was just like everything. He doesn't really mess up. He's not a flashy guy. He doesn't throw interceptions that much. So he's a game manager, and I've always liked game managers. Remember Alex Smith, when he was with the 49ers and everyone's like, this guy's terrible. Look at that guy's record, man. Look at that guy's analytics. The guy's a winner, and that's how I feel about Cousins. So that's why that, and the fact that Megan lived in Minnesota for 2 years, and I was literally in Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis, every month, and we were, seeing all the Vikings fans. We go to watch Vikings games and all that stuff at the bars, and it was a lot of fun. But awesome. But that's the reason why I have my ties. But if it comes down to Lions versus Vikings, man, I won a lot of money last week because of them, because the Lions whipped that ass. So, all right. So, yep. So we got 2 for Buffalo, 1 for the Vikings here. And before we close this out, Skalski, we got to talk about it. You got the hat on, just in case if I don't have you back on before this game happens. What is your prediction? Let's do let's do all our predictions for the college football playoffs. Let's just do that. We'll do that quick because we're actually, this will be the shortest podcast we've done, which nothing's wrong with because attention spans for people watching. But let's start with Georgia versus Ohio State. Obviously, Georgia's the big favorite here, but Ohio State, man, they're hard to bet against. But Georgia, they just look so dominant. Let's go with Haines first. Georgia versus Ohio State. Who wins that game?
Yeah, that is a tough one because you're absolutely right. Georgia looks like they should just roll over Ohio State, and Ohio State has shown that they can be beaten. But at the same time, I think that that loss to Michigan is stinging right now, and I would expect them to be coming out firing. If they do lose, it's only going to be by a few points. And if they win, they might even turn it into a shit show. I'm going with Ohio State just because I think they're going to be coming into that game, man.
All right. What about you, Skalski?
I can't disagree with anything that Chris said, but I'm going to have to go with Georgia and their 26-year-old quarterback. So no, I just like Georgia. Georgia's exactly. Georgia's just playing good football all year. So
as a Michigan fan, do you want to play Ohio State again? I wouldn't. That's the last team I want to play, man. Yeah, it'd be cool to say you beat Ohio State twice in 1 year, but what are the odds of that happening?
Well, in my opinion, it would stink to win the conference and then lose to, like, if that were to happen, they play Ohio State and they were to lose. It just, I don't know. It just sits weird too, not having all the conference champions in there. But a couple years, that'll play itself out too.
Yep.
I'm going to Ohio State just because I think you guys can already tell what my prediction is going to be here. I'm going to Ohio State. Very, very close game. 41-38, could possibly do an overtime or two. And that is my prediction. We're going to go on to Michigan Wolverines versus TCU. Michigan's the huge favorite in this game. I'm going to start off. Michigan's going to win this game. They're going to be in control the whole game and probably win by 8 to 10 points. Skalski, you're the big Michigan guy. I think I already know who you have picked to win, but how's this game going to play out?
I obviously think Michigan's going to win. First half, Michigan, I think, just keeps it's 10-7 game or something like that, 13-10. Second half, I think it opens up on both sides. I watched that conference championship game, TCU versus Kansas State, and TCU really came out in that second half. Mac Duggan is, a good quarterback, in my opinion. Like, leaves it all out on the field. They had to carry him off the field. So I think TCU is going to give him a fight, but I'll take Michigan. I don't know if it's doing an alternate spread. I don't even know what the spread is. I do 6.5.
I think the spread might be 10, but something like that. I'll look I'll look while Haines gives his pick.
Yeah, so I agree with the potentially low scoring first half, low scoring close first half. I don't know. This is Michigan's year. I'm sorry. This sucks as a State fan.
It does, man.
They always ramp it up in the second half, and I think it's going to stay close until midway through the third quarter, and then it's just going to turn into a bloodbath, and Michigan's going to end up walking away with it probably by. Honestly, I'm thinking like 35-21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the spread is 8. Oh, it went down. and Georgia's favored by 6.5, in case you're wondering. So,
Ooh.
All right. So then that means it brings us to the college football championship game. We're going to start with Skalski. So you have your Michigan Wolverines going against Georgia. What do you think the spread of that game will be if that plays out? No
Price.
injuries, like everyone's full health.
7.5. Georgia's favored, I'm guessing.
That's so crazy,
Probably.
man. Michigan's on the. Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Yeah, but they love the SEC. They love
Yeah.
Georgia. I mean, Georgia was there last year, so Michigan's still trying to prove themselves. Like we on the first podcast, I don't know if Michigan makes it in if they would have lost to Ohio State. And obviously Ohio State made it in. So, but I'm gonna have to go with Michigan.
What's the score?
42-35. It's gonna be a high scoring game. Big
Really
second
exciting.
half. Just open it up.
You told me that you're not the biggest bettor, but you throw on like money on games that you go to. If Michigan makes it to the national championship, are you putting some money on that?
Yeah, I'd figure. I like to bet on like some prop bets, like players getting touchdowns or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, I'd probably do an alternate spread on that, and yeah, throw some money on there.
All right, Haines, you got Ohio. Did you pick Ohio State? Yeah, you did.
Yep, I have the rematch,
So do I.
and I think the rematch is going to be a repeat.
What's the spread going to be going into that game?
The
What was the
spread's
spread?
gonna be
What
closer
was
than
it?
the
Was it
final
7.5?
score.
Was it 7.5? Skalski.
First time around, I believe so. Yes.
You think it's gonna be 7.5 Michigan now? I mean, it's got to be, right?
Oh yeah, easily. It's got to be flipped.
I can see it coming out like 1.
I'd say 3.5 Ohio State. I'm thinking.
Will be
I thought
favored.
Yes. I
You
thought
think
they
Ohio State's gonna
had-
be? Michigan just beat them in what was in Ohio, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was in Ohio.
Yeah, and they blew them. I don't know, man. You think they're really gonna give Ohio State the favor in a neutral stadium where Michigan? When's the last time Michigan made? Last year they were in the national championship, right? No, they lost they lost in the playoffs? I forget.
Yeah, less than the
Yeah.
playoff.
Yeah.
So when was the last time Michigan was in the national championship? 2000? 2000 was that the year?
Michigan,
Yeah.
97.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so they haven't been a national
It's been a
championship game
minute.
since '97.
Yeah.
You know how many Michigan fans are going to be at that game? Where is it at this year? You guys know before I look?
I think LA. I believe LA.
Championship location. Football location. SoFi Stadium. Where's that at?
LA.
Yeah, LA. There you go.
Good one.
That's gonna be a pricey
Yeah.
ticket, man. Woo! Oh, I'm looking at StubHub right now. Take a guess on what the average ticket is. No, because that's kind of hard to do. Let's do. Okay, you want 2 tickets. The cheapest seats are $900.
I was just about to say the cheapest seats have got to be closing in on 1,000.
Yep. I was gonna say the same.
This stadium is massive too, man. Good Lord. Would you ever think about going to this game, Skalski? Or are you thinking about going to that game if they make
I
it?
don't think so. I probably wouldn't go to LA. If it was somewhere on the East Coast, maybe.
If it was like Indy or something, you'd do it?
Yeah. Oh, Indy. I would definitely try to go if I was able to.
Where's the playoff game at?
Where is the playoff? That's a good question.
It's somewhere tropical or warm. Here it is. It's Fiesta Bowl. They're in Arizona. And then
Arizona and Georgia, right?
in Georgia versus Ohio
Georgia.
State in Georgia. How did that work out? I got to change my pick.
I found the
Wait.
Good podcast
Okay.
host I am.
I found the future bets for Ohio State, Michigan. If they make it, it's Ohio State 3.5. Michigan, Georgia 8.5. Ohio State, TCU, Ohio State 10.5.
So if you were to buy an actual ticket off Ticketmaster for the Fiesta Bowl, the lowest fan, I guess you This is standing room only. It's 376.
Wow.
Not worth it.
But that's not even for the national championship on Ticketmaster. Yeah, it's 1,000. So that's StubHub ticket. If you want a ticket, you're getting a good value if you go buy that right now. Wow, that's wild. So you're picking. So Skalski, you're picking Michigan to beat Georgia, right? Haines, you're picking Michigan to beat Ohio State.
Beat Ohio State.
Blowout. We're set.
I think it'll be a little bit closer than last time, but I think they just want it. You know, I really think they just want it. So,
Like it. I like hearing it.
I just can't do it. I can't do it.
yeah.
I can't do it. I'm going Ohio State to beat Michigan. And it'd be fun to see because Larry was throwing Ryan Day under the bus a lot and how Ohio State should fire him. And he is literally like 45-5, I think what Tom said his record is. So I think it'd be cool just to rub in Larry's face. And Larry's a State fan too, so it would, you know, be even the different. I'm arguing with you, Larry, just because of what you said, you know, not because you're a Michigan fan. But I'm gonna go Ohio State, high scoring, 37-35. They come down to the final drive of the game. I think Michigan's going to have the ball, and Ohio State's going to force something. But we still got weeks away until that happens. That's on New Year's Eve. They play at 4:00.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, New Year's Eve. I mean, we're old now, so it's not like we're going to be like partying it up late at night. So I'll be probably cracking a beer and watching that 4 p.m. game. Yeah, I mean. How were you, Skalski, going into last year's game? Were you confident?
No.
Who'd they lose to? Did they play Bama?
Georgia.
It was Georgia.
Yeah.
What was the score?
It was. I don't recall 100%, but it was a blowout. Michigan had a chance, and then they just couldn't in the second half.
34-11.
Yeah.
It was 27-3 at halftime.
Yeah. Never mind. So it was. Yeah.
So you weren't confident at all going into that game?
No, not as confident going into that game now.
Haines,
I feel a lot better about this year's team though, with JJ and Edwards.
I hate to say it. I think Michigan does have the most talent out of the 4 teams. I mean, Georgia just looks like a wrecking ball, though, man. Like you said, he's the same age as Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, exactly.
Like so. And he's a grown ass man, like he really is. And Haines, how confident were you going into the Alabama game? What was that, 2011, 2012?
Oh gosh, I knew we were gonna get blown out.
That was bad because I was still young. So I was
like, 65-3.
I watched the game with all Michigan fans. It was at my buddy's house on New Year's Eve, and I was like decked out in state gear, and I was like a young, pompous asshole. I was just like, we're in the national championship. And then it was just like, I think I left. If Ubers were a thing back then, I was like, give me an Uber. Just take me home. Man, that was. Is Michigan State the worst college football playoff team of all time? I mean, I can't really tell you who else could be worse, but
right.
Michigan didn't show up last year. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think they didn't lose that bad, but I mean, it's been the same, handful of teams year in, year out, though. It seems like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, LSU had their Clemson, so.
Yeah. Let's wrap up with this. If you guys heard, like, Nick Saban is really pushing for Alabama to get in, do you think there's any reason that Alabama should have got in over Ohio State?
No.
Like, his reasoning is, I thought they might just do it because they want Alabama in, but Ohio State also draws a pretty big market as well. So it's like, they're not really losing that much by having Ohio State over Alabama, I think, from like a money perspective.
I would have rather seen Tennessee, instead of.
That's a bummer, man.
Or if USC wins that game, if they didn't get blown out by Utah, that would have been nice to see them in there. But
how do you guys feel about the playoff expansion? We talked about this a little bit with Tom and Larry. Are you guys all for it?
Chris,
I can't hear you, Haines. Are you talking?
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah, at this point, you might as well do it. I kind of like the way that they're implementing it. I mean, bowl games themselves don't really mean what they used to. So let's just really have a true playoff.
Skalski, what about you?
100% what Chris said. If we want college football to be meaningful, you have to have these games played for, national championships. You're just losing
There's no argument Alabama or Ohio State if they're both in, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it'd be cool to see a non-Power 5 team get in there and maybe make some noise. Probably not, but just to see them, get in, play, give them a chance.
Was Cincinnati in it last year? They got blown out, right? Or was that game close? Cincinnati.
Is that last year?
I could have made.
Was it 2 years ago or last? Was it last year or 2 years ago?
The last game of the year was. No, I got the wrong year. About 2021. Yep, that was last year. They lost to Alabama 27-6 in the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve. They were the 4 seed. Alabama was the 2 seed. Yeah. So I mean, they're in the 8. Yeah, I mean their conference isn't that great. So I mean, but I totally agree with you, Skalski. I would love to see like I mentioned this, like a Boise State go against like a SEC team and just put it to them, like shock them. But yeah, I'm all for like imagine like seeing a Tulsa, like a Tulane or something too.
Oh yeah,
because Tulane's been up there, and yeah, I'm all for it too. I think it just makes from a fan perspective, you have more games to watch, you have more games to bet on. Obviously more publicity. The college NCAA is going to make even more money by doing that. More meaningful games, like you said, like college bowl games don't really mean that much. And like, imagine being like one of these coaches that are bringing like a non-powered team to the college football playoffs and winning. That guy's getting either a massive raise or he's getting picked up by one of these top teams. So I'm all for it because it's really going to separate people, and it's also going to give us names and teams that we would never even thought of, and then they can make a difference for themselves and their future, and players in the NFL, for like draft status and stock.
Gives us something to watch in between, conference championship and then New Year's Day, basically.
Yep, I totally agree with that. Totally agree. Well, cool guys. I don't want to keep you guys much longer. Anything else you guys want to say before this podcast wraps up? Obviously, the fantasy football season is over for us, but the draft is right around the corner. I propose this idea. I want to do, since all of us pretty much play golf, I want to do 2-man scramble teams. So 5 2-man scramble teams. So we'll separate everyone's handicap. So like Skalski, Doug, Kenny will be, like an A player, and then we'll do 5 B players paired with an A player. And whichever team wins, this is just what I'm throwing out there. I haven't confirmed this. They will get to pick their drafts where they draft. So say, for example, you two are on a scramble team, you guys win. So you guys can pick any part of the draft you want, but if you guys have to agree on, so say Skalski's like, I really want 1, I want 1. So like that, you guys are gonna, as teammates, and then if I have to get involved, I will. But besides that, so if I come in second place with Doug, doesn't matter. Our spots are going to be random. The team that wins is the only team that can pick their draft spot. Just an idea. Thought it's cool. I used to watch The League back in the day. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, and they would do like some wacky stuff for the draft orders. So, and we all enjoy golf, and then plus we all get together, right? We could do Red Run. Like it'd be so much fun. So that's what I'm proposing for next year. Something to get excited about, get us together. And then obviously Skalski, hopefully you can make the draft next year. That was a bummer for you that you couldn't be there, but in person. But yeah, anything you guys want to say, or
Chris, you want to go first? You good?
My season's a joke, but whatever. I don't care. I had fun still. I did still have fun, and I'm glad I've maintained my membership in this league.
Wow, you're locked in for your life, for as Tom Izzo would say. How about you, Skalski? Any last
Same
words?
thing. I mean, it stinks losing, obviously, but it helps me, watch more football and just stay up, with football a little bit more. The NFL. Yeah, I always appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else does with you being the commissioner. And yeah, good luck to everyone in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. Good luck to everybody that's in the playoffs. And if you guys are listening, thank you for making this little dumb idea that I thought of at the draft party. I was like, hey, I'm going to put a podcast together. And you guys are like, all right, what the hell does that mean? And now we're on episode 13, 14. And I'm definitely going to keep this going next year. I'm not doing any more podcasts after the season's over, man. I just need a break from like just going from one thing to the other. But thanks you guys for being on. I'm glad I got to have pretty much everybody on at least 2 episodes. So thank you guys for taking the time out of your Wednesday night to be here.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. You've been a great host.
Thanks, buddy.